All right, we're live.
Yay!
All right, everybody, if you're watching or you're watching later, welcome to the channel. It's a new channel. Some of us are already here, some of us are not here yet, but they will potentially be joining later. This is just going to be kind of like a meet and greet so that you guys can meet us and kind of hear our backgrounds and what we have to say and what we're kind of bringing to the table and what we kind of plan on doing with this channel. And yeah, that's it. So we're winging it. So here we go. Go ahead, Lisa.
Hi guys, I'm Lisa. I'm also known as Lisa the Pagan, but I've recently changed my name on YouTube to Hoodoo Mama because that's the kind of practice that I do. So I've still got the microphone on and it's kind of interfering, so it's in my ears. So, hold on a minute. I think Dineen's still got a microphone on in my ears. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, as I was saying, my practice is hoodoo. I've only started doing this recently for the past 3 or 4 months now. But before I was, many years ago, I was Wiccan, and then I didn't really like that. I'm not saying Wicca's bad because it's not, but that didn't really gel with me. I do use animal parts in my practice. If you don't like that, then look away now because I'm going to show you the kind of stuff that I use. This is one of my animal parts that I use that is in my altar. This is my goat's head that I use in my practice. I do have many more animal parts. I use chicken feet, I use all kinds of different stuff. I'm sorry it's a bit dark, it's because I'm in my bedroom, my light's gone. I do have 2 children. My daughter is Alyssa and she's 4. She's very witchy as well. My son is not very into anything like that, but he's 12, he's a little monster. But yeah, what else can I say? I've been practicing for over 12 years, maybe on and off, I'd say. Like I said, I'm starting in hoodoo now, working with animal parts, different herbs. I work with saints. Recently, Santissima Morte, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but if I'm not, sorry, has recently come into my life. So that's awesome. I do feel her around me. It's kind of a heavy feeling, but that's recently what's been happening to me at the moment. So that's basically what I do. I work hoodoo magic at the moment. Don't mind me, I look like something from the living dead because I've been awake all night. So yeah, but yeah, that's all I can say really. I'm sorry I didn't give you any more information, but yeah, that's me. Woo.
All right, thank you, fantastic. I guess we were going to plan on just going kind of through the people that live in the future from the US. So that means, Tara, you're up.
Okay, so hello from the future. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. I have to kind of turn off my thingy here. Okay, so my name is Tara. Well, originally Tamara, but for everyone it's easier just to call me Tara. So I live in Slovenia. My family is originally from Bosnia, so I have Slavic roots. Also, like witchcraft in our family hasn't always been this traditional pagan thing that's popular in these days. So we did witchcraft like since forever, since I can remember. So but like our main religion was always Muslim. So we did like this traditional Muslim kind of things. Me and Amy were talking about some of that stuff and found it really interesting how there are so many similarities between our tradition and the Norse tradition and different kind of pagan stuff. So I've been doing a little bit of that because I have gained some knowledge through my grandmother and grandmother and my mom and different aunts and that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. But I have also done my own thing I have really just found that my main thing is nature and just paganism in general. I wouldn't ever call myself a Wiccan, for example, or I don't know, or something that certain, because I find myself always transitioning, always changing, and I think that that is the main goal of my practice, to always find something more to learn about, to find something more to grow, you know. That's the main focus of my practice. But I have been practicing different kinds of things. Um, I have been familiar with Wiccan rituals, with Druid rituals. I have been initiated in this Druid community here in Slovenia. I have been doing even kind of a Christian rituals with angels and stuff. There has been really a lot of different things going on. Also voodoo and hoodoo as well. I do not have any problems working with animal parts, as Lisa mentioned before. So I do work a lot of raw materials. I call them. I like raw materials. So yeah, you know, Amy is like, yeah. So yeah, I would never kill for a bone or for a skull or anything. Um, but you know, you can find a lot of things if you really make it your goal. So I kind of go with the flow. I use what I find. I do what I feel is best. I do not have any problems with offensive or defensive magic. I know that many people do have a problem with that, or have a need to define themselves as the white or the light or whatever kind of magicians. Yeah. I don't think that magic works that way. I think it's just magic. It's just a tool. So it's in your hands, and you are the craftsman that does the job, you know. So I think that if someone comes at me and tries to do me harm, I will fight back, because it would be stupid not to fight back. It's the same as if you have the ability to swim and someone throws you in the ocean, you're gonna swim. You're not just gonna lay there and wait to drown. So yeah. Um, I don't know. I think there's so many different things to talk about, and I think that we're gonna cover so many different things on this channel, and that it's gonna be such an exciting journey and fun, especially since we all come from different parts of the world and time, apparently. So, yeah, I'm just going to stop rambling and let others introduce themselves. So, thank you.
Hooray! Okay, next up, I guess let's go with, I'm just gonna start now with like the person that's at the far beginning of my little column here. So Blythe, that's you.
I had to figure out how to unmute myself for a second. So my name is Blythe, and I also have a personal channel on YouTube as well. I go by Blythe Spirit on YouTube. So my path, I consider myself to be a deviant witch, which was basically something that was created out of necessity. It's kind of blending, I want to say blending different traditions, or multi-traditional. For myself, it's different for everybody, and it's a lot of what Tara was saying is what I believe too, is, you know, doing what you need to do when you need to do it. I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in the threefold. I don't believe in those beliefs at all. I think that they are very limiting. I'm also interested in hoodoo and American folk magic. I love sympathetic magic. That is one of my things. I love sympathetic magic. And I am not initiated in like any specific path, which is kind of, I guess, one of the reasons why I do blend things together. But I've worked with Hecate pretty much since I came to this path, which has only been about 4 years, so it really hasn't been for that long. But the reason why I came into witchcraft was basically to find my own power. And it wasn't to be, you know, powerful over anybody else or try to manipulate anybody else. It was for me to come into my own power and to take charge of myself and my own life. So that has been very beneficial, and I've definitely needed it. But I do try to implement a lot of Roman practices and ancient Roman practices that I have found, which is a little bit different than the more modern Italian witchcraft. And I also have studied different paths like voodoo, Santeria, Satanism. I believe that whatever it is that you're afraid of, if you have any kind of fear, then you should do your research and get to know those different kinds of paths. This way, I need to know everything. Like, the more you know, the less you're afraid of. So that is one of the reasons why I've done different research on those different paths. And I also have, you know, different projects I'm involved with. I am 1/4 of Deviant Witchery, which is a whole nother channel and group and everything. And I've worked with some of the witches here previously, and some I have not. And I am very excited to be here and to be doing this with everybody.
Okay, sorry, I had to figure out. I was trying to post a link because someone was like, "Where's the link?" And I'm like, I don't know how this works yet. So next up on my list there is Miss Dineen. See how I've worked this out to where I go last?
Okay, I've been practicing now for 4 years. I started out Wiccan and then realized it wasn't for me because, like all of you, if someone sends something your way, you're not just going to sit there. You're going to have to send something back. So I am a pagan witch. My interests are in Norse mythology. Recently, I have had an awakening, and now I have I should say anywhere from 2 to 4 deities that I've been working with recently on the Norse path. I'm interested in folk magic and traditional witchcraft. I have 2 kids, one's 3, so sometimes you'll see me cut out early because I have a little one that likes to be on camera. And I have a 13-year-old. And I too like to work with animal parts as well. Obviously, I have had some deities who had wanted me to go hunting and things like that, and as Amy and I have talked about, that's just not one of my strong suits. I don't believe in killing an animal to use it in my practice. And that's it, and I'm happy to be here. And it's so nice to work with the rest of you.
All right, yay! And next up is Mr. Jonathan.
Hey, great to be here. Oh, you wanted more. Sorry. Just kidding. My path is, I call it traditional, what I would consider to be traditional witchcraft or shamanism. I have no problems like everybody else working both sides of the fence. In fact, most of the time you'll find me straddling pretty regularly. I am a medium. I don't really know. I mean, my practice is so simple, and I like to keep it simple, and I think that's why Amy brought me on here, is because I don't like to add a bunch of extraneous crap to my practice. I like to keep it as simple as possible. I work with nature. I work with the energies of the earth. I work with different herbal energies, stones, but I don't necessarily need those things. They will assist in the work that I do, but they're not required. I do work with animals, both animal parts, like everybody else. In fact, I picked up some nice chicken feet when I was out at my mom's, fresh kill, and that's pretty much it. And I think people will find that I like to keep it that way. I really don't want to put a lot of there's really no need for it. There's no need for all the ceremonial There's nothing wrong with that. If that works for you, great. But it just doesn't work for me, and I don't enjoy it. So I like to keep it, go in, do the job, and get out. That's about it. And I'm pretty, and I have a great beard, and I'm sexy as shit. God, and if I keep the mic, wonder how long I could sit here and talk about how beautiful I am. Oh wait, never mind. Just kind of like, there you go.
Get off the damn microphone. Okay, so I guess it's my turn. Especially following Jonathan, where he's just like easy breezy, like what? I keep things simple, man. And then I come in here like I'm complicated. Okay, hi, I'm Amy. And I just don't even really know where to start. I've been doing this thing called witchcraft for about 16 years now. I'm married. I'm a Cancer. I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. I've been a military dependent my entire life until here recently. My husband was medically retired. That threw a wrench into my world, big time. Let's see, I think I started off Wicca like pretty much everybody else. Just my mom was a hippie growing up, so we kind of always just did weird nature-y things. And then I learned that there were these words, these terms that you could use to describe what we kind of already did, or that we would call like, oh, my mom's a tree hugger, and oh yeah, we make flower crowns because that's just what we do, and we're weird, and kind of honoring and worshiping nature in this way. And then I learned that there was like terms and words and communities and things that went along with that. So I was like, oh, I'm totally Wiccan. Oh my gosh, there's like a thing for me. But the more that I learned about that, I was kind of like, not really. Not. There's a lot that I can understand and relate to with that, but at the same time, not for me. Not, again, disclaimer, not that there's anything wrong with that. Power to the Wiccans, but it's just not my cup of tea. So years and years and years go by, and here I am now. Which is kind of what's relevant, I guess. I practice Northern tradition folk magic. Similar to hoodoo, which I believe is called Southern folk magic, but I could be wrong on that. I practice Northern folk magic, which is like Scandinavian and sort of kind of just European folk magic in a way, I've learned from talking to Tara. There's a lot of similarities and a lot of different things, and I love it. I also kind of dip my toes into the traditional witchcraft pool, but that's a complicated fucking pool, because what's traditional witchcraft to one person is not traditional witchcraft to another person, and it gets really fucking murky. So I get intimidated even saying I practice traditional witchcraft, because some people are going to be like, no, you don't, Amy, you don't, because that's the thing, and you don't do that thing. And okay, sorry, I don't know. So I dip my toe, just a toe, in traditional witchcraft, and we'll see how it feels. I work with animal parts. I work with not animal parts. I work with nature just in general. So that includes animals, both living and dead. It's really not weird for people to kind of get boxes of roadkill from me as presents, because, hey, roadkill needs love too, people. I don't know. I like to go foraging in nature and find most of the stuff that I use in my practice is stuff that I find just like in my yard, or if I'm traveling around, or roadkill on the side of the road. So yeah, I guess that's me in a nutshell. Yay, me.
Okay, so I'm gonna tackle the traditional witchcraft thing you just said. Oh yeah, let's just throw our nuts right on in there. Let's go. So, here's how I look about traditional. Here's how I think about traditional witchcraft. We're talking about prior ceremony, prior really anything. We're talking about this as far back as you can think of. The best they could probably come up with is very shamanic. So if somebody says traditional witchcraft and they don't follow it on a shamanic practice, then they're full of shit. Period. And I'll say it right now.
I would just like to intervene a little bit, if I may.
No.
The first question I ask when someone tells me they're practicing traditional witchcraft, I ask which tradition, because I think that witchcraft is just witchcraft. It's just using energy to achieve something, and you have that in every single religion in the world, and every single part of the world is just practiced in a different way, in a different tradition. So when someone tells me I'm practicing traditional magic, I ask, from which tradition?
I can understand, but I'm talking about prior to even that. So even further back than we even knew what we were, they were practicing forms of witchcraft. I mean, if you think about it, they healed with herbs, they healed, they believed in rocks, and they threw sticks at each other. So tell me I'm wrong. All right, so that's what I'm saying. That far back, we're talking traditional. We're not talking what people call traditional. We're talking traditional, like
we're just talking old
school. I live in a freaking cave. I don't really, but I live in a cave. I would if I found a nice cave with some windows. But I live in a cave, and I stir my pot all day long, and I eat whatever the hell comes along, and the bones that I get from that are what I throw and do divination, and I use them for nice wind chimes and adornments on my body. So that's what I consider to be traditional witchcraft. Not okay. You could say Italian or that type of witchcraft. No, I'm talking like the shamanic, because if you look at the practices of some of the Sami people and the Peruvians and that far back, those are what I consider to be traditional, and unfortunately they've been classified what I think almost incorrectly. But so anyway, that's what I call traditional. So when
I agree. It's almost like traditional witchcraft could almost be changed into like cultural witchcraft. I think people would almost have a better understanding of traditional, because a lot of people hear traditional and they think like high ceremonial, which some things I guess could kind of be seen that way, depending on where you're from. Some cultures I think would be it would be a lot easier for them to seem high ceremonial type of practices. I don't know, because that's not my forte, but I know that for me, like looking at the history and stuff of my path, like what you were saying, where it's like, yeah, they lived like in caves and it was fucking cold outside and like they worshipped fire because that was their livelihood. It didn't have to be some grand, thing. Not saying that it can't be some grand thing, but traditional witchcraft to me and folk magic, at least the type of folk magic that I practice, it works very well together just because it is so. It's like the blood and spit and bones of witchcraft.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. But like, anytime that someone tells me I practice traditional magic, they usually think about the cultural part of it. That's why I said I'd ask which tradition, But I agree. It really depends on how you perceive that word, and I totally agree on the rawness. I would call it old raw kind of a type of magic. as you said, the spit, the blood, the bone, the raw being of that source, of magic, which is basically contained in every single type of tradition, if you ask me. I think that is the basics, that is the essential which is needed for any magic to work.
I agree with you, but I think a lot of people lose it in their practice.
I agree. Yeah.
I think, and I don't think that they're taught correctly. I think that a lot of people are listening to people that don't have any idea what the hell they're talking about, for one, and they get all their information from a book. So, and that's they don't live it, right? They don't go out and they don't take this information and they go out and try to figure it out on their own. I've read tons of books. I read tons of books all the time. I was flipping through a book before we got on the show. But everything that I read from a spiritual standpoint, I go out and try to do. So I try to see that on my own and come to that practice on my own path. I can follow. I'm going to use Orion Foxwood because I really think that this is the name of his book. But anyway, I could follow Orion Foxwood, and I could do everything that he does in his practice, and he has a fairy Wiccan practice that he does. And but if I'm just following him, I don't understand it. I understand it from his perspective, but I don't understand it from a spiritual standpoint. I couldn't tell you truly what it feels like to go through that ceremony or through that practice. So that's why I like to keep things simple, because I'm a dumb idiot from southern Missouri, and it takes small words for me to understand it. So if I keep it simple, and then I can practice that, and then I learn it as I go, and I'll quit hogging the mic now. Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the exact difference between spirituality or witchcraft and religion is, in fact, in experiencing and doing it yourself, because religion is usually believing in someone else's experience, while spirituality and witchcraft is getting your own experience and believing in your own experience.
Anybody else have anything they want to touch on that before I segue?
No, you're not segueing. We're doing this the whole show.
I just wanted to say, I think that usually when people say traditional witchcraft, it's usually Americans, I think, use that phrase. It's the ones I've run into anyway. And when they say traditional witchcraft, they mean like European witchcraft. It's more so like Irish and English, because that's where a lot of their roots come from. But you're right, each tradition, each culture is completely different. I could be saying traditional witchcraft and be talking about Egyptians or any other culture that is out there. You can even say traditional witchcraft and be talking about, an African culture, because that is a traditional thing. I think that is like the that's where it all came from.
Anybody else? Dineen? Lisa, got anything? Okay, because I don't remember if it was when Jonathan or when Tara said something, something I always find interesting when you talk about witchy things in general, in depth, it always comes to mind is, for me at least, what always comes to mind is, and for the question in the little Q&A box, yes, we will try to link everybody's individual channels and info and all that kind of stuff in the description. We will. But when you talk about anything like this, spirituality, religion, whatever, in depth, those two always kind of come up together. You have spirituality or your practice, and then you have religion. And some people believe that they're entirely different, and part of me I can understand that intellectually, and I get the concept. But at the same time, if a random Joe Schmo was to come up to me and be like, oh, hey, are you a religious person? I would probably answer with like, yeah, I'm deeply religious. I I don't know if that would be the right answer or not, because to be honest with you, I don't really know enough about religion in general, because like I said, I was raised by a hippie. But what are your guys' opinions on where witchcraft or your practice or whatever your spirituality begins and religion ends, or how do those two go together? Do you feel that they go together at all? Do you feel that they should go together? Should they be kept totally separate? What are your thoughts?
Well, since I have been babbling for the half of this video already, I'm just gonna keep it short. I think that there is a slight difference, at least for me. Like, I can't be saying this for everyone. My own opinion is that witchcraft is exactly what it is. It's a craft. So it is something that you do. It is something that you do to achieve certain things that you want, or certain states that you want. And then there is religion, which in my opinion is worship. Is worshiping the experience, is worshiping the deities, the divine beings which exist for you. So that is how I see it differently. But I do think that one can definitely go with the other, just as like people have been explaining in a lot of videos on YouTube where the difference is between Wicca and witchcraft. I think that is the same difference with all the other religions. Like that's why I can understand that there can be also Christian witches, because many people are like, whoa, how can there be Christian witches? Isn't Christianity against witchcraft and stuff like that? But in truth, Christians have been practicing witchcraft for this entire time. They have an altar, they have tools, they have priests. They do this on a daily basis, basically, So I think that witchcraft is something that each tradition or each religion can definitely use, and I think is using in worshiping. So I think that one is definitely going with the other, but I don't think that one is the same as the other.
Well, I actually just looked up the definition of religion, and it basically says a set of beliefs, like a specific set of beliefs. So I do not think that witchcraft, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't, because it is very individual to the person. I do see them as separately, but my personal belief is they work better together. Because for me, religion is more of, you said, like worship, like working with your deity, working with your spirits, working with whatever it is that you work with. To me, that is part of the religion. And for me, it works better together than it does separately. Because witchcraft, there needs to be, it comes from somewhere. Like, you can't draw completely on your own power. You have to work with nature, you have to work with nature spirits, you have to work with deities, or you have to work with, the dead. However it is that it works for you. So I don't know. It's a hard one because they can be separate, but they can be together. I think it really depends on the individual person.
I completely agree with you, Blythe. In my practice, it does definitely work better together because I worship. I also work with the ancestors. I work with spirits, herbs, things like that. But I feel the same way, that you have to have them together. But I can see how some people have them separated. But to me, in my practice, such as and same as yours, is they work better together than separate.
I'm going to add in here that, sorry about that. Shut up, phone. I'm going to add in here that, to me, witchcraft is very similar to, say, a Buddhist practice. Buddhism is a philosophy, and I think witchcraft really is too. It's a way of living. It's a way of interacting with the world around you. It has nothing to do with deity or even really a higher power. So, you know, I don't think that witchcraft should actually even be considered a religion because it's really not. I mean, in its truest form. Um, yes, you may work with spirit. Yes, some people work with deity. Yes, some people use herbs or stones. Um, it's not required, but some do. I do. Um, yeah, I don't think that witchcraft should be classified as a religion. It really should be almost under philosophy or something to that nature. Way of living your life, sociology. Maybe I'll just stay on the mic until 6. Maybe what? What you gonna do about it? Nothing.
I have the power to mute you, mister. I agree, I agree with pretty much everybody. I mean, I agree completely that witchcraft is a lifestyle. If it's not, and that's just, I guess, from like my own experiences with talking with other people and stuff, I've found that the people that don't like fully engulf their entire being into this craft, they kind of end up being kind of like what you would call dabblers. Now that being said, I have also come across people that just okay, everybody has their triggers, everybody has like their thing, and this is one of mine. There is magic in, I think that me and Dineen actually just had a conversation about this. I believe that there is magic in everything. At the same time, I do not believe that there is magic in everything. And yes, that makes me like a walking contradiction. I'm aware of this. But yes, like tying your shoes can be a very magical, witchcrafty thing to do. But at the same time, every single time you tie your shoes, you are not working a spell. Like, come on, people. You know, sometimes, okay, I had a situation where, you know, there's a person and like they saw a leaf blowing down the street. I see that and I'm like, oh, look at this amazing, like, magical thing happening, you know, because nature is magic. So look at the wind, the element of air, interacting with this leaf, an element of, you know, the earth and stuff, and it was beautiful and magical. That's how I see it. Not saying that that's right or wrong, but someone else can come along and be like, oh my gosh, did you just see that leaf blowing in the wind? This is a sign, and I guarantee you that was like a fairy that was carrying this leaf down to the local sacred circle tree, and I know that I'm coming across really condescending, and I don't mean it that way. I tend to seem very condescending a lot of the time. I really don't mean it that way, but come on, people. Yes, there is magic in everything, but there's also not magic in everything. You know, it's like hypochondriacs. It's like magical spiritual hypochondriacs. You know, I have a friend. What? Okay, go ahead.
Why would you not want to see magic in everything?
Right. I agree.
What the
At
hell?
the same time, I disagree.
I'm flicking you right now. Flicking.
All right, I'm just gonna mute my microphone. Speak.
No, I'm done now. That's all. That was the question I had. I'm done.
You don't get to flick people around and then just mute yourself. Okay, go, Blythe.
I think people that exaggerate, because I saw what you're doing to me was like an exaggeration. People that exaggerate their experiences, they feel the need to do it because they're not actually experiencing anything, and they're just trying to look cool to try to fit in, or you know honestly, a lot of times when people have personal experiences, they don't really talk about it, or they talk about it with the close people. They don't like post about it all over these message boards and stuff. So, yeah, I have my theories, and I know you've heard it before, Amy, about the big W and the little W's. And there's a difference between being that witch that you said you live it every day and it is part of you and is part of just everything that you do, and then the people that talk about it and don't actually do anything with it.
And that being said, I would just like to clarify that there's no judgment coming from me with this sort of thing, because for many years I was that person. You know, I was really seeking something out, and I was just like, I was kind of like the leaf blowing down the street. I just didn't know what the hell way I was going. Was it up? Was it down? I doubted everything. Blythe, you know this very specifically with me. You know, I doubted everything. I was super analytical. It was extremely hard for me to shut off that analytical side of my brain where I could explain everything away. So I get it. People, you know, it's a journey. People go through all different types of things. At the same time, I would never try to come across as like a mentor to someone or a teacher of some sort if I had that kind of mentality still. I mean, I was just not a very nice person, to be honest with you, because I was very condescending, I was very belittling, and I was real quick to knock people down. Like, oh, look at these people, I think they're so magical, and I can do all this stuff. And it was from a place of resentment, because I'm sitting here like, well, none of my shit's working at all, and I'm just mad about that. You know, so I get it, but I really do believe now, in my practice, that it's an everyday kind of thing. I mean, like I said, sometimes the simple act of tying your shoe can be a magical thing. But not every fucking time. Stop telling me that the element of air has come from you and you just farted it out. No, that is just gas because you ate at Taco Bell.
I so agree with this. This is fucking crazy, I swear.
I gotta know, how many times a day do you tie your damn shoes is what I want to know. I tie my shoes once.
I'm extremely frustrated with shoe tying right now because I just moved back from Florida.
One time.
And I was wearing flip-flops a lot. So tying shoes wears me the hell out.
Because I can run a spell one time and not be all the time. So how many times do you tie your shoes? That's what I want to know.
Apparently too many. I mean, why don't they just slip on? Like, I'm literally looking at my shoes with resentment right now. Like, why don't you slip on? Do your job, pull your weight.
We should do a stuff like that, you know, to make our shoes tie themselves up. That would be fucking awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Or just be a fucking hippie and don't wear shoes.
I was gonna say I don't wear shoes very often, so. But kind of going on what was being said about, you know, going through other people's experiences, I think it ties in with what Jonathan said earlier about going out and doing it and learning it on your own, because you can hear something from somebody or read a book, which is somebody else's experience, and then you do have to go and experience it yourself. I think that is really important.
I completely agree. I think it really, really, really is important, and I think that, to be honest with you, that's where a lot of people really start to kind of go wrong, is you read a book and you kind of almost, and I think anybody who kind of reads a lot and is like kind of a bookworm kind of has this tendency anyway, because if you're reading a book and you really enjoy it, you kind of almost feel like you absorb that, so it like almost becomes part of your own experience, and people need to remember that it's not your own experience, that this is someone else's experience. And yes, it can be educational, and yes, it can really resonate with you or really piss you off or whatever, but the trick, for lack of a better term, because it kind of seems common sense, but the trick is to, like, okay, if I was to read, for example, if I was to read a spell in a book, and be like, oh my gosh, okay, that really just kind of makes sense to me. Cool. I'm not going to like instantly write that into like my black book or like write it down and keep it forever like, yes, this works absolutely. No, I'm going to take that and I'm going to apply it and I'm going to try to figure it out for myself because, you know, with the Scandinavian stuff, I mean, some of that stuff's just not easily accessible over here. So you got to kind of try and tweak things, which, as a lot of you also know, I kind of have a little twitch weirdness with substitutions. So that gets complicated. That could probably be a whole other show. But you have to apply it. You have to go out and practice it. You have to live it. You have to get your own experiences. And then that's what I would write down into my black book, which makes me sound like some sort of prostitute now that I'm saying it out loud. But I'm not. So, next. Shit.
$50 make you holla.
And everybody's going to leave it at this super awkward silence, right, when I say prostitution.
And I think that also goes not just with spell work, but with deities and spirits too. Like, I know for myself, I've been working with Hecate for a long time, or Hecate, however you want to say her name. But a lot of people worked with her, and a lot of people worked with her different aspects. She's a liminal goddess, which essentially to me means she is everything. She's everywhere. She is the sky, she is the earth, she is the water, she's everywhere, she's everything. So my experience with her is going to be different than somebody else's experience with her, because she's doing something for me, and it's going to be different for somebody else. Like, I've also worked with Freya, who came to me in a very sexual way, and I know with other people she brings up like the Viking warrior goddess way. So it's completely different energy for different people, even though it is the same deity, because they are multifaceted, just like human beings are. And yeah, you have to experience it yourself.
See, I keep waiting for someone else to jump in, just that way I don't step on anybody's toes.
You're the boss.
Yeah,
What?
I feel like I'm talking all the time.
I'm what? I'm talking all the time?
No, I feel like I'm talking all the time. He said that you're the boss.
The boss?
You're the boss.
No, I'm not. Did you say I'm the boss or I'm the mom?
The boss.
Is there a
I
difference?
don't want to be the boss. I'm not the boss. Why am I the boss?
Because you have red hair? I don't know.
I just... Deities, as Blythe was saying. Deities are bizarre, and maybe it's just my deities are bizarre. And I talked with Tara a smidgy bit on this recently, because I had a ancestry DNA test done. And I'm not going to go into like all that, because that's a whole other, I'll probably do that on my personal channel or something. I don't know yet. But it was really cool to have validation, because, you know, sometimes when you're dealing with deities, or you're dealing with ancestors, or probably just even spirits in general, sometimes you can feel like you're a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like, I don't know if it's just me, or if other people have these kinds of experiences, but I've had some really weird fucking experiences. Like, there's been goats involved. It's been weird. And it's interesting to me to hear some people talk about deities and stuff, because I completely, first of all, let me say, since I'm just super rambling right now, that I completely agree with what Blythe said. Just because, I'm going to say Hecate, because that's who you were talking about. Just because Hecate wears purple for you and has black hair and likes Fig Newtons for her offering, you know, doesn't mean that when she goes to Jonathan, I'm just throwing you under the bus right there, that she's not going to be wearing red and have blonde hair and like chocolate. You know, I mean, they present themselves, I think, to us in a way that we're comfortable with, or that will have a significant impact on us or whatever. So I completely agree with that. Just because what I see is not what you see does not discredit one or the other's perspective. Now, that being said, it gets complicated. Like, especially when you're blending things. Like I was talking with Tara about Velis, which I don't even know if I'm saying his name right because I do not speak the language.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, you are.
Woohoo, go me. I work with Velis, and he's crazy awesome and intense. But it totally blindsided me because I had a message that from my ancestors that I was supposed to work with my ancestry, my bloodline peoples. So here I'm working with like Scandinavian peoples. And then comes Velis, and I was like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm like, you're not my peoples. This is what I'm getting confused again. And then my brain starts going analytical and stuff. So with that ancestry DNA thing, I was like, aha, I see what you're doing here now. So have you guys ever had any kind of experiences like that where it's like something has manifested, and it doesn't even have to be deities, but you know, something has manifested to you and you're just completely like, what?
Yeah, I think that happens like so many times when like we are not really ready to see the truth. I think like especially for people who work with the energies like witches or any type of spiritual or even religious people, I would say, like we are constantly trying to get something that is good for us, but we are so many times trying to push the other way. Like, for example, you really want this job at the bank, for example, and you really want a good job, and you have this image in your head that that's gonna be awesome and fucking great and just epic, exactly what you wanted, and then in the end, you really don't get that job. It gets fucked up, and you're really all sad. But then in 2 months, you get something else, something that was there before, but you weren't really ready to see it yet. And then you realize that that's exactly the thing for you. And that's just one example. I think that that kind of stuff happens on a daily basis, even with taking the good way home from work, for example. Like, you know, like you get blocked on the way, or you get late or delayed by something, and then you figure it out that if you really hurry up and went out, you know, and went out the job like on time, that you would get into a traffic jam or be a part of a crash or something. You know, I think that things like that happen all the time. You just gotta see it, you know, you just gotta kind of listen to it. And there's also the thing like with intuition, with trying to see things, or as you were giving your example, like you wanted to know, you want to work with your ancestors' spirituality or gods or whatever, but you wouldn't accept what came to you first because your analytical part of the brain would work that way. And that's the same thing with divination. I think that we all had that experience when you were just like, I don't know, reading your rune set or cards or whatever, and the picture was clear, but you just wouldn't accept it because it wasn't logical at the time. And in I don't know, in a couple of days, things would be so freaking clear that you would just like just punch yourself in the face for not accepting it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it happens. It happens all the time.
I have to agree that it does happen all the time. Like Amy and I were talking one night because I was talking about a god that I was worshiping, for instance. And the god that I would end up describing to Amy, Amy's like, wait a minute, this sounds like someone, like this other god. So then Amy and I got discussing about the fact that the god that I was worshiping turned out to be the wrong one, for instance. Like, I knew what he looked like, but all his characteristics matched Velis and not the other god that I was actually worshiping. And then when I started studying my ancestry and my heritage, then I realized, well, no wonder why he came. Because of the fact that it's from my dad's side. So, no, I completely agree with you. Like, sometimes it just blindsides you because you don't realize that it's right in front of you the whole time.
I agree. I think all of it is, I mean, I think a big part of intuition and witchcraft in general, at least for me, the lesson that I've learned here recently is to live literally in the moment. Because I've been through some shit over the last, like, 2 years, let me tell you. And the lesson that I have learned is to live in the moment. Not saying that I don't plan for the future or I don't learn from my mistakes or lessons from the past, you know, all of that, you know, but I don't constantly focus, because I used to be the type of person that was constantly about predicting what would happen, because my family motto has always been expect the worst and hope for the best. Because if you expect the worst, you're prepared for the worst, but you hope for the best because you're optimistic and shit. But are you making fun of me because my thumbs? I like thumbs up, man. So, living in the moment, I think, is an extremely beneficial thing for witches and practitioners to keep in mind, and I just apparently felt like sharing that right now in this moment because living in the moment, we have been on now for an hour, and I think that we can probably wrap it up at this point. So does anybody have anything that they want to say, or in closing, or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a question. I think that there's something that we would all like to know. How were the goats involved?
Oh, baby, baby. You know that's what I like.
The goats. There are just a lot of goats. There's just a lot of them. And it just, I mean, I don't really know how to even describe.
Yeah, tell me how it was, baby. What were the goats?
Shut up. I did kind of a YouTube video on my channel that talked a little bit about it, but, you know, I apparently have this one specific ancestor that's from way back when, and he kind of just showed up in my house one day, and and anytime I ever see him, he always has all these damn goats, and they're just all over the place. I mean, like, I think that as witches, we kind of get used to dealing with ancestors and because, I mean, and I say dealing with ancestors because whoever is like, oh, my ancestors are all so polite and kind and no, my ancestors are not. I don't know what kind of ancestors you have, but my ancestors are not like that. Some of them smell pretty fucking bad. Goats. You know, some of them have very distinct smells, and some of them just have really bad attitudes. This particular one, for whatever reason, he just always has goats with him, these little damn goats, and they're just all over the place. Like, they get on the couch, and they get on my tables, and they like, it's weird, because, like, they're eating the couch, but they're not, because they're, like, ghost goats? I don't know. It's weird. But, you know, I don't know. See, just weird shit happens to me. So that's the story of the goats. I have what he calls himself the uncle, and so I have an uncle who shows up, and he always has goats and a mug of something that I'm assuming is probably not hot cocoa.
freaking awesome.
Anybody else have anything that they want to say? Let me change that from ask to say.
Hey, Tyrion. Did I say that right? Tyrion? I'll say
Yeah.
Hey, T-Dog. Will you say do this again?
What?
Say do this again.
Do this again?
Do this. Do this. I'm getting a kick out of your accent.
Oh, well, I can speak Slovenian if you want to.
Do it.
Yes, do it.
To bo malo bolj zakompliciran.
What the hell did that just mean? You don't even tell me. Don't just let me relish
I
in it.
said that will be a little bit more complicated.
No. It's not near as exciting in English. Go back to the Slovenian.
We should do one whole show where we all talk and interact, but Tara has to her only interaction is in Slovenian. So nobody knows what the hell she's saying. But it just sounds awesome.
Oh, okay, we can do that, no problem.
See, we can do that. All right, so it is 6:06, which means we've been on here for an hour. I hope everybody had fun. I had fun. I want to thank everybody for joining that came and participated. And we will be doing this show, what is it, guys? The first Saturday of every month, roughly around this same time. And we will be trying to discuss more specific topics. Obviously, this month's topic was just kind of like, hey, here we are. But we'll be having different topics, and you can come into the Google Plus Hangout thing, and you can ask questions if you want, or you can just watch live on YouTube, or you can watch it later once it posts to the channel. Make sure you subscribe and share and be happy. And that's all I got.
Yay!
Bye.